On today's show, the Cleveland Cavaliers look like they might be broken. The Lakers get a nice win over the Pelicans as Luka and Austin Reaves both go off, and we talk about every game from Sunday right here on Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What's up, everybody? My name's Danny Cunningham from Locked On Cavs. He's Swipa from Locked On Nuggets, and this is Locked On NBA Game Night, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is America's #1 sports podcast network. You can find this show and any other Locked On podcast anywhere you get your podcast. It's Apple, it's Spotify, that's anywhere else. And if you're watching on YouTube as we get started, do us a favor, hit the thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest from us. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can bet just $5. And if your first $5 bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets used all across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started today. We've got 8 NBA games from Sunday's action to dive into. We want to start in Cleveland, where the Cavaliers fell to the Boston Celtics 117-115. I want to start by getting the Boston angle from John Corrales here in a second, but Swipe, ultimately, I do think that this is a game that says a lot more about what the state of the Cavs are right now. So let's hear from John, and then we will talk whether or not the Cavs are broken.
Boston Celtics survive a late run by the Cavs. I'm John Corrales of the Locked On Celtics podcast. It got dicey at the end. Donovan Mitchell did his thing at the very last minute, even though he didn't have a good game. But the Celtics did enough to get the win. Peyton Pritchard was amazing with 42 points. Jaylen Brown didn't shoot well, but a triple-double, 19, 12, and 11. The 11 assists are, I think, the big thing for me on this one, because a couple of them came late. The Celtics did a great job cutting baseline. They were attacking Darius Garland. They were really pigeon hunting with him in the fourth quarter. And both Pritchard and Jordan Walsh cut baseline. They each got key buckets down the stretch. Walsh and Hugo Gonzalez had big steals in the middle of the fourth quarter to help keep the Cavs at bay. So little plays like that to support Jaylen, who looked tired. He just looked tired, and his shot just wasn't falling. But he got to the line 16 times. So maybe the complaining about the officiating finally paid off for him. So that's how he got himself to 19 points, going 12 of 16 from the line. On a back-to-back, after a tough loss, a hard-fought loss in Minnesota, this is an impressive win for the Celtics to, get themselves through a tough stretch. This was a stretch here where a tough run of games. They've got the Knicks coming up. Didn't expect them to survive this very well, and they're finding their way through. So an important win, an impressive win for the Celtics. Much more coming up on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
So I agree with everything John said. It is a very nice win for the Celtics, who are on the second night of a back-to-back after a rough loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves on Saturday, where the Wolves really took command of that game in the third quarter. But so I think this game is so much more about where the Cavs are at right now as a team, because they were the team that came in, and they still are with our friends at FanDuel. They still are the betting favorites to win the Eastern Conference, but they were a team that came into the season with very lofty expectations, and they lost this game, their third consecutive loss. They fall to 12-9 on the season, and just it looks like something is wrong with that team right now.
Do you think some of it is just they're getting Darius Garland back, Evan Mobley's trying to find his place? Donovan Mitchell's had to lift more this year than he has last year, especially. I think that the team right now, they're just trying to find a zone that they can exist in. And, but I think one of the things about the Celtics, and I think you can attest to this tonight as well, they're better than their record indicates they are. They're 11-9, but if you look at like dunks and threes, they're performing like a top 10 team in terms of net rating so far through the year. They just had a lot of, I would say, not so great possessions, closing games. There have been some moments and some stretches where they've just gone really, really silent, especially their bench. That kind of jangled up what actually has been a pretty good season for the Boston Celtics. And so, I just think too, like, bro, if you get 42 points from Peyton Pritchard, bro, like he's just lighting you up. I just think it's a very difficult thing for where the Cleveland Cavaliers are. And I think you can even admit their defense hasn't been what you would have hoped it would be this season, especially up to this point. I just think right now the Cleveland's trying to find a new identity, Last year was last year. You won 64 games because you just had this crazy, efficient, all-time great offense. And then for a lot of the year, you had a defense that coupled it. And I think right now the team is just trying to find itself. And, shout out Evan Mobley, obviously at 27 points today. I think he continues to, take steps in this game. This is kind of what you're looking for him. Just be aggressive on the board, be aggressive as a scorer, especially in a night like tonight where Donovan Mitchell, who's having an all-NBA year this year, didn't have it going to the same degree. So I don't think it's Cleveland is like broken, but I do think there's something to starting a new season and trying to reconfigure who you are. And now, especially think about you lost Jordan Knott. That was a part of your identity. So I just think you put all that stuff together. It's just Cleveland's taking a while to get going.
Yeah, I will say the positive out of this game from a Cavs standpoint was Evan. He had 15 points, 15 of his 27 came in the third quarter, and the Cavs fell down by as many as 21 in that third quarter, and Evan was a part of bringing them back, and he was really, really good. And this was, I think, the best game that he has had in a couple of weeks, and certainly a step in the right direction for somebody who admitted after the game he was frustrated that he kind of got off to a slow individual start this season. But I look at this in the Cavs because they fell down. They were down by 21 in the third quarter. They started off terrible. They were down 17-5 in the first quarter too. And they've done this in a lot of their losses where they'll fall down big early and they'll find a way back into it because they can show you just, oh yeah, we're capable of doing this. We're capable of going on these 21-3 runs or 14-0 runs. And then they sort of lose focus and they fall down big again, which is exactly what happened on Sunday night. And then they find a way back to cut it within 2 with under a second left and do have a chance with the basketball to tie or win the game. Now, it's not a good chance. It's less than a second left on the clock, but they have routinely shown what they're capable of. But the infrequency in which they show it, I think, is probably the most frustrating part about this team. And it even got to the point where Jalen Tyson after the game talked about he thinks they're kind of in cruise control. And I think that's a dangerous place to be for a team that, in terms of postseason success, hasn't accomplished anything.
Well, can I say something too? I don't know how much love he's getting outside of your network and talking about Naquan Tomlin.
Yeah.
Good player. And I think
for a guy on a two-way, man, for a guy on a two-way contract. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, Spencer Jones is similar for Denver, like a player you need that brings a lot of energy, brings like some two-way play, especially in terms of making like high energy possessions that Naquan has. I think that as the season goes on, man, a lot more people are going to be really hearing about how good he's been for the Cleveland Cavaliers team this year.
He was a plus 19 in 22 minutes off the bench for the Cavs. He and like it feels like he has this just energy impact, and he is, I think, a breath of fresh air for what that team needs right now. Let's head on over to another game in the Eastern Conference. Is the New York Knicks beat the Toronto Raptors 116-94 on Sunday. Knicks really take command of this game in the second half with outscoring the Raptors 34-25 in the third and then 23-17 in the fourth. Karl Anthony Towns had 22 points for the Knicks. Jalen Brunson had 18 points, not super efficient, 6 of 19 from the floor, only got to the line 5 times, but ultimately New York wins a game that could be an NBA Cup preview game with both these teams advancing, but they win this game to move to 13-6 on the season. And I think the Knicks are adjusting to Mike Brown pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I loved what he has been doing this year. I think that the offense was clean. I love the way Cat's playing this season. Again, like for them, like shout out Mikal Bridges, like he's just continuing, I think, to find out like what he's supposed to be doing on this team. Like I really love how they've ingratiated him. I think Deuce McBride is having like a really good season so far. He looks good this year. They're not getting the contributions from like Gershon and stuff that you're looking for. But again, like I think he made positive plays today, even though some of the overall raw totals weren't where you wanted to be. But Josh Hart, for me, man, is probably their most important player just because when OG's not there, especially, you need someone that's able to kind of guard 1 through 4, run the system they do, which you obviously want to cover and hide around Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. But offensively, a lot of his value is going to come from, are you going to be able to hit these shots that when the defense concedes, because they don't want Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns to have easy looks at the basket, are you going to be able to do that? And he did that really well tonight. 4 of 7 from 3 is huge for Josh Hart. But then shout out to Karl Anthony Towns last year. I thought that for the first part of the year, he looked like he could have made first team All-NBA last season. Then he kind of tailed off as the year went on. But again, 8 of 15, he looks good. And by the way, y'all, if people don't realize, like playing versus the Raptors, now the Raptors, they started Scotty Barnes and stuff today, so they obviously were missing their center. But I think when you play versus the Raptors, they're very physical. So beating the Raptors, that is something that takes time. Like you really got to be able to get into the flow of the offense and withstand a lot of the physicality to bring it from inside the paint and out. And they were able to do that really well tonight.
Yeah, no Jakob Poeltl in this game. And Brandon Ingram, who has been on just an absolute heater for the Raptors lately, had that buzzer beater against the Pacers. I think that was on Thursday night or maybe Wednesday night. I don't know. At some point this past week, he had a buzzer beater against the Pacers. He had an awesome game against the Cavs last Monday. He had 14 points on 4 of 11 shooting. Not a great game. 5 turnovers, 4 assists for him. Was a minus 22. Scotty Barnes was just kind of okay. And the Raptors have been playing great basketball. I know that their winning streak was snapped the other night, but I kind of think they were due for sort of a stinker of a game. And when you see a winning streak, which I think there's got to 8 or 9, when you see a winning streak get snapped the way theirs did, then you are sort of, I think, prone to a letdown. And we just saw this with Detroit, right? Like where they saw their winning streak get snapped, and then you lose a little bit of that air and you lose a couple of games because it's almost as if there is, an emotional hangover from those types of streaks that you have to recover from. Maybe Toronto's just suffering from a little bit of that in this one.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, I think they built up enough of a cushion that, like, you could make a real argument. They're going to be a home court team in the playoff this year. Now, that's up to them. They obviously have to continue to keep that going, but I love the infrastructure that Darko has built for them this season. It
is certainly possible. We have a long way to go before we get there, but it's certainly not something you can rule out at this point. Elsewhere in the NBA, Kevin Durant had a big night as the Houston Rockets, or I guess big afternoon. Houston Rockets beat the Utah Jazz on Sunday. We'll talk about that. Plus, Luka Doncic and Austin Reaves both go for 30 plus. Again, we'll dive into those next right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. The holiday season, one of the best times for sports. You've got bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every single day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is with PrizePicks. PrizePicks, the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and most importantly, available in 45 states. That includes California, that includes Texas, that includes Florida, and that includes Georgia as well. PrizePicks has also added an extra layer of excitement because some of the new things that they've got, the early payout feature, it's a great bonus because when your lineup starts strong, you might get the option to cash out early. Make sure you do get a win, right? Sometimes it can just feel good to win, and with PrizePicks, you can do that with the early cash out option. Plus, their stacks feature lets you choose the same player up to 3 times in one lineup. So maybe more on a certain quarterback's passing yards, touchdowns, rushing yards, all in one, and you can win big with PrizePicks. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA, that is LOCKEDON NBA, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen, and thank you to those of you that make this your first listen every single day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. Both Kevin Durant and Alperen Şengün had big nights for the Houston Rockets as they get a 129-101 win over the Utah Jazz. For more, let's head on out to Locked On Jazz's David Locke.
When a title contending team plays a developing team and the title contending team does everything they do well, it is not close in the NBA, and that's what happened tonight. David Locke of Locked On Jazz. The Houston Rockets blow out the Utah Jazz. Final score 129-101. It was a night of runs. The Rockets went on a 19-4 run in the first quarter where the Jazz went for 5 minutes and 26 seconds without a field goal. The Rockets went on a 16-2 run in the second quarter, and in the third quarter, they went on a 19-0 run. Keontae George, who was on the injury report for illness, may actually have been ill. His game tonight, 8 turnovers and no points. It is only the second time somebody's ever done that in NBA history. The great John Lucas was the other in 1981, and I bet maybe he did it possibly while playing for the Golden State Warriors, not the Houston Rockets, but Lucas was a great Rocket. The Rockets just got everything they wanted, completely dominated. And here's what's really interesting about this matchup is the two teams will play again tomorrow night at 7 o'clock here, some 30 hours after they tipped off. We'll see whether the young Jazz team are any better in answering the pressure defense of the Rockets and whether the Rockets stay focused as Ime Udoka would like them to be. Udoka's always focused. He challenged twice tonight while up 30 and won both of them.
Well, congrats to Ime for winning 2 challenges by up 30. I'm sure everyone in the building loved that they got to sit through a couple of reviews because what more do we need in basketball other than reviews. But Kevin Durant at 25 points on 10 of 14 shooting, was 3 of 4 from beyond the 3-point arc. Alperen Sengun had 27 points on 10 of 15 shooting. Reed Shepherd got the start in this game. They did move him into the starting lineup. He just had 9 points, only took 8 shots in the game, but Houston just continues to look very good. I mean, Utah's not a good basketball team right now. Like, this is an expected result, but you deserve credit for, doing what is expected sometimes.
But I will say this about the Rockets, man. If you don't have an interior presence on your team, and I mean a legit one, the Rockets are going to eat you alive. One, because Sengun, he's tapered off a little bit from like the start that he had to the year, but he's still been really good. He's going to be up to making an all-NBA team this year. He looks phenomenal tonight. But I think a slept-on sixth man of the year this year is Steven Adams. He's not going to get the votes. Centers that don't score won't get the votes. But in terms of impact, Danny, I don't know a player asked to do something to the degree that Stevens is doing that is good at it. Steven Adams today to plus 24 off of the bench. That physicality, the rebounding, the lineup. I mean, but Danny is crazy. Like,
no, you're not wrong. I agree with you. It's just absurd the impact that he has given what his role is. Like, he's so good at it at this niche role. And you're right. Like, he's not going to win sixth man of the year.
Right.
He does not score enough points, and that traditionally is a, your Lou Williams type of guy or Naz Reid that can just come off the bench and cook. And Naz Reid is a center example, but that's because he can light it up in the points. Where Steven Adams just like, I'm just going to get us 15 second chance points every game I'm on the floor.
Mm-hmm. And just even like, again, nerd stuff, but like the Gortat screens that he runs, just the overall screening he has. He's like an interior presence defensively where he changes how defenses or how your defense is structured and how offenses are attacking you. And especially when you're playing versus a team that doesn't have a traditional center, especially tonight, like Nurkic is cool. Like, he's a good player, but like, Steven Adams and Sengun are going to eat him a lot. Like, I just think, man, like, they are so good. And their formula is so unique. And I think Ime Udoka deserves a lot of credit for how he has manufactured a legitimately great contending team with a very different kind of offensive structure, especially given the fact they're trying to get Reed Shepherd there to be their lead guard, but he's still so far away in terms of his consistency. They deserve a lot of credit. 13-4, that's nothing to sneeze at.
No, it's not. And these two teams play again on Monday. And my favorite fun fact about this is the first back-to-back of the season for the Houston Rockets. They have not had a back-to-back yet this season, which to me, as somebody who is covering the Cavs on a daily basis, I am in the midst of the second 5 games and 7 nights stretch that they've had so far this season. Like, I personally don't play basketball and I am exhausted, and they have not had a back-to-back yet. Like, that is absurd to me. It broke my brain when I realized it.
But now just think about it. That means they have like 14 left for the rest of the year,
which is also nuts. Like, that's a tough way to go the rest of the season because they all count the same, as we know in the NBA. Elsewhere across the league, Minnesota got a 125-112 win over the San Antonio Spurs. Spurs, of course, don't have Wemby. Wolves had a great fourth quarter where they outscored San Antonio 36-19 in this one. Anthony Edwards, I believe, became the all-time franchise leader for the Wolves for 30-point games. He had 32 points on 13 of 18 from the floor. Wolves have certainly had some bad losses recently, but even without Wemby, even without Stephon Castle, Spurs have been playing good basketball. So I would certainly put this in the good win category for them.
Well, is this their best win of the year?
Ooh,
because
let me pull up their schedule because I'm not
the Suns game in the bag. But remember, they were up 8, and then they lost at the last minute of the game. They played Denver twice, lost those games. I'm trying to think what other games they would have been in.
Yeah, so their wins this season are Portland, who Portland is fine. I wouldn't call them good. The Pacers, who are not good. The Hornets, who are not good. The Nets, who are very not good. The Utah Jazz twice, who are very not good. The Kings twice, who are very not good. The Wizards, awful. The Mavericks, awful. The Celtics last night was a good win. But I think you're right. On Sunday against the Spurs, I think this is not only their best win, I think it's very clearly their best win.
So I think this is, hey, you're a Wolves fan. You beat an over 500 team.
Bravo.
And you look good doing it. Double-digit win. Now, no Wemby. Hey, that team without Wemby just beat the Denver Nuggets, by the way. So they obviously are pretty good. And Devin Vassell, like, he was good, 22 points. De'Aaron Fox 25, but they played good defense on everybody except for Keldon Johnson on the roster. So shout out to the Wolves, man. Like, hopefully this will be a streak for them where they start winning game. Now they're only 12-8. I think people are pretending like they're worse than that, but I still think they're going to win 50+ games this year.
So I want to ask you this, and I meant to ask you this when we were talking about the Cavs, because the Cavs are 12-9. But when does it stop being early to you? When do you get to the point in the season where it's no longer early in the season?
So I traditionally have had a 21-game mark. That is, for me, the quarter of the season, the know-hows of this is what this team does, this is what this team doesn't do. These are the guys, these are not the guys, these are pretenders, these are contenders. I think 21 games into the year, you got an idea of what you are. Now you have anomalies. Remember, Boston Celtics, they were like, what were they, 22-22 the year they went to the title, and then they went
right around there, yeah.
So that can happen. Dallas Mavericks, 23-24 season. They were one team, made the PJ Washington and Gafford trade, and then they were an elite team.
The Pacers last year. The Pacers were 10-15 last year through 25 games. They were not just mediocre; they were bad in their first 25 games of the season, and then they turned into this juggernaut.
I think the Cavaliers are one of the teams that are going to pop. I think the Wolves are one of those teams that are going to pop. I believe in what they have in their infrastructure. So for me, if I can see it, I think 21 games is about the reason that the level I can reason say this is a good team or not.
I think that's a fair stance to take. And of course, you have to factor in health and all that. We've got a few more games to get to, including, like I said, Luka Doncic had a great night. Austin Reaves had a great night. The Lakers won again. We'll dive into that. Plus the Thunder. The Thunder played. The Thunder won. That's how that goes. They're 20-1 in the season. We'll get to both those plus everything else next right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. I know I was watching the Browns on Sunday, and the big play was a muffed punt. Not the first, not the second, but the third time they finally muffed a punt that the San Francisco 49ers were able to recover it, and that totally changed the game. And that is why live betting is so exciting with FanDuel, because maybe you could have gotten the Niners at just like, -2.5 before that muff punt. And then everything changes because you're not just watching the game with FanDuel, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place live bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight reel worthy moment. And live betting is best when the game starts to shift, right? Maybe a receiver's getting hot. Maybe a defense is starting to tighten up. Maybe they figure out that offense is off their script. They're done. They don't know what they're doing anymore. The defense is really taking control of the game. We've all seen that before. Or, like I said, turnovers can change momentum. FanDuel has you covered with live bets. And maybe one of your live bets is going to be Monday Night Football tonight when the New England Patriots play host to the New York Giants. Patriots 7.5-point favorites at home. As I said, maybe you want to see how this one plays out, a drive or two, and you might think, you know what, actually the Patriots are going to win by 10, or the Giants with Jackson Dart, are they going to keep this close? Well, you can decide once the game already begins with FanDuel. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action, and I know you do, visit FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com, and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thank you again for making this edition of Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen on YouTube. And if you're watching us right now, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest from us here at Locked On NBA. The Lakers got a 133-121 win over the New Orleans Pelicans in a game that I'm not so sure is quite as close as that final score would indicate. But let's head on over to Locked On Lakers for more.
Kamenetsky, co-host of the Locked On Lakers podcast, and the Lakers get a 133-121 win over an insanely shorthanded Pelicans squad who may need to soon bring back recently fired coach Willie Green as a player if they don't get healthy. 34-12-7 for Luka Doncic, 33-5-8 for Austin Reaves, 22-12 and 4 blocks for DeAndre Ayton. The Lakers were up by as much as 26 in the first half, and they spent a lot of the second half playing with their food a bit, but in the end, it was a comfortable win, and the 77 first half points tied a season high for any half. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you're watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and listening wherever you get your podcasts.
So as you mentioned, the Lakers played with their food a little bit. They had a big lead for most of the night. And in the third quarter, the Pelicans were kind of able to cut into it in a little bit, but it was one of those games where you just knew it was not going to swing in that other direction. But I think the thing that stood out to me from this one is how efficient both Reaves and Luka were, because it's not just that they both had 30 plus. They did it on 18 of 37 shooting. Like, those two were very efficient. And the Lakers also won this game without LeBron. And I know they're 4-0 with LeBron in the lineup, but winning any game, even if it's against a bad team without a player of that stature, I think is a really good sign for who this group could be.
Yeah, I mean, they've already established their identity without LeBron. They played so much of the season without him. Obviously, DeAndre Ayton, he went out. He had a little knee injury. I didn't see an update on that, but hopefully, obviously, he's okay, especially long term. But yeah, Luka and Reaves are, I don't know how to have this conversation correctly, because right now, are they the best backcourt in the NBA through the start of the season? I think you can make an argument. Do I think that's going to be that way through the whole season? The playoffs, like whenever I had a matchup, I don't know. But I do think that, like, this is where you look at Reaves, and I'll make an argument. I went through an argument the other day, bro, where I was like, I think Reaves should be an all-star this year. But then you started going through all the names, and it's kind of like, yeah, you're right. But he's playing really well. But, like, his numbers are better than a lot of stars, a lot of regular all-stars. He had better numbers than them. And then you look at tonight, he contributed really well. And now, again, they're playing versus, like, a C version of the Pelicans. Obviously they didn't have their best player, whatever. And Trey Murphy didn't even play. So I think some of this is just, they obviously got a very easy win, but I still like their process. I still think Luka's been phenomenal. I think Reaves deserves credit for what he's done this year. And today he was great.
Yeah, he was great. And sometimes that's all you need against a bad team, is for one guy to step up, and they were lucky enough to have two. But let's move on to our next game, because Oklahoma City, they played a game on Sunday. And if Oklahoma City plays a game, it means, well, they probably won that game. They did against Portland. Let's head on out to Ryland Styles for more.
SGA continues to be a closer, coming up clutch in this game, leading the league in clutch points. Does it again tonight against Portland, both as a passer and a scorer in the fourth quarter. Overall, not the best Shea game, a pretty off night up until that fourth quarter, but the Thunder just got enough from all their complementary pieces. Chet comes alive in the fourth. AJ Mitchell comes alive in the fourth. J-Dub on the glass and in transition was great. Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, all those guys came through for OKC. An overall team effort, a win that's really rooted in their defensive output and just having to survive the whistles that they had against them for Deni Avdija to live at that free throw line. It was a free throw contest between Shea and Deni, but the Thunder ultimately get the win, and they go 20-1 to start this season, and they continue to find ways to win even without without Alex Caruso, and while being shorthanded all year. More on the Thunder on Locked On Thunder after this.
I'm sorry, but when you're 20-1, I don't think you get to say survived a free throw contest. And Deni did get to the line 23 times. Like, he had 31 points on 14 shots because he was 19 of 23 from the line. But I look at that as, maybe it's just a little bit of manufactured adversity for what is clearly right now the best team in basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when you tell SGA fans or that, like, the free throw line is his friend, they say, well, stop fouling. I think the same thing today. Deni was just strong and aggressive, and you kept fouling. Now, SJ, was still good today, 26 points, 8 of 15 from the field. He's having a phenomenal season so far this year. He's moving up a lot of people's rankings. He's been insane. Chet Holmgren continues to have good play this year, 19.9 rebounds. He was a plus 14 a day. J-Dub, 16 points plus 12. That defense with him is incredible. But yeah, man, like, when they say like they're missing players, I'm just like, okay, they're missing Ihart, they're missing Alex Caruso, and it's kind of like that team without those two players is still the best team in the NBA. You know what I mean? So, like, they're obscenely deep and loaded. And AJ Mitchell off the bench had 17 points on 5 of 9 shooting. They just have so many guys, but they played so aggressive today when they needed to. And again, SGA, down the stretch of these games, he's honing into a different place. He's finding a rhythm, finding a mode, and he's putting these games away.
Yeah, I think you could split them in half, and they both teams, like, if you just divided the Thunder into two different teams, they both might get home court in the West. Like, that's how good this roster is right now. They are just absolutely phenomenal. And let's head to a roster that for the first time was whole on Sunday. Yeah, we're talking the Philadelphia 76ers. They lost in double overtime, but they had everybody. Let's head to Locked On Sixers for more.
Time all season, the 76ers get Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, Paul George, Jared McCain, and VJ Edgecombe all on the floor for the same game. And they go on to lose to the still Trae Young-less Atlanta Hawks. This one, they take a double overtime loss. The final score, 142-134. Tyrese Maxey did score 44 points. However, really highlighted one of the Sixers' biggest problems, if not the biggest problem they had all night, the inability to knock down a three-pointer. Maxey himself, 2 for 13 on the evening. Sixers shot 23% from three-point land in the loss. Joel Embiid did play 30 minutes in the game, dropped in 18 points, just 4 rebounds. Paul George, 28 minutes in this one. He scored 16 points with 7 rebounds for the Sixers. They'll be back at it Tuesday night at 7 o'clock when they take on the Washington Wizards.
As for Atlanta, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I want to read you his stat line. And yes, this is double overtime, so it's a little bit inflated. 34 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, was a plus 19 in this game in 44 minutes. Jalen Johnson also didn't necessarily have the plus minus numbers, but he had 41 points, 14 boards, 7 assists, did have 6 turnovers in there too. But the Hawks have been playing some really good basketball lately, man. They have.
Look, every time I see Nickeil Alexander-Walker, it makes me extremely frustrated because I know how cheap teams could have got him for a couple of years ago. Oh, and just like, casually Trae Young's out. Don't miss a step. 34 points on plus 19 versus a fully healthy Sixers team. He's a great player. Jalen Johnson is a great player. 41 and 14 with 7 assists. Jalen Johnson is the best player on the team for me. I'm already there. I've been there for a minute. But, dude, that team is good, man. And Dyson Daniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, that's going to be a terror to deal with for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how they can grow as the season continues on. And we've got one more game to get to is the Memphis Grizzlies got a 115-107 win in the bad vibes game of the night because the Sacramento Kings, I just don't know that anyone has it worse than them right now. They are 5-16. It feels like they have no direction in which they're going. Zach Edey for Memphis had a fantastic game. He had 32 points on 16 of 20 from the floor, 17 rebounds as well. Also had 5 blocks in the game for Memphis. And maybe that's something to hang your hat on if you're the Grizzlies. I don't know that you necessarily feel great about where you are as a team, but hey, very good night from Edey.
Yeah, man. Shout out, man. Zach Edey, crazy game today.
Crazy game. And sometimes that's all you need to feel good. And sometimes that is what we need to wrap up today's show. So thank you for making this edition of Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen. You can find this show anywhere you get your podcast. That means Apple, that means Spotify, that means any other podcast platform of your choosing. We're also available on YouTube each and every day. So make sure if you're watching us as we get out of here, do us a favor, hit the thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest from us here at Locked On NBA. The show will be back tomorrow talking about every game from Monday.